this shit on? I think it's on. I think it would be better if I take my fucking microphone out and then like. Hello? Is this working? Hello? Is this fucking working? I want to check this out. So, I have a fucking webcam now. Anyway, most of you guys are probably shocked to see my fucking face in the video. I got this webcam for about $40 on Amazon, alright? I saw 1080p 60 FPS. That's all I fucking cared about. But today we're talking about something special. Let me take this is fucking annoying me right now. Anyway, a couple months ago, I was introduced to this book by the names of City the Wolf, and Cityfounder wrote it. So I was like, all right, fuck it, let me read this, and I read it. So I read this book, right? I was like, damn, I need to make a video on this. So here I am, making a book review on Cityfounder's book. No hate, please. No hate, please, City. But anyway, so here I am making a fucking book review on Cityfounder's book. And here, just a disclaimer, I fucking hate reading, alright? And I read this book twice. I read this book fucking twice just to make sure I kind of knew everything. Actually, just to bring up some context of what Cityfounder was thinking writing this book, I tried to ask him some questions, and I asked him what was his inspirations for writing the book and how his personal experiences shaped the story as it is, because I wanted to figure out, because the fucking book is about him as his own character in a fucking Sonic universe. Anyway, I asked him those questions, and he said, oh well, I was thinking about Sonic and how I saw him as a guy who seems to be okay but has a ton of potential. Very vague statement by City, by the way. I'm trying to revive most of the aspects of the old age of the series, hence why a lot of Sonic Underground is referenced. I then thought about making something that could work for that type of story. So I made new characters, a new enemy force, and a lot of history directly linked to old forgotten shows that were good. So basically that was his inspiration for writing this book. And to me, knowing nothing about fucking Sonic, I was like, okay. I asked him for some clarification. So I asked, what do you mean he seems to be okay but have a ton of potential? And then Cityfounder replied, his background and character and powers and story and plot could be put to better use. So today we're gonna see if he actually puts his plot to better use. We're gonna touch on some topics such as the setting of the book, the writing style, the narration, characterization, plot, theme, conflict, you name it. And I'm basically gonna give my thoughts on it. Having read the book twice, and I need to drink some water real quick, actually. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the setting of the book. The whole setting of the book is basically on this planet called Mobius, and it's a Sonic type planet where Sonic type characters, like fucking wolves, hedgehogs, a fucking possum shows up once, and I was just like, what the fuck? But whatever. The role of the fucking setting is basically non-existent. It's basically his home to the Chaos Emeralds, which is basically the whole main conflict of this fucking book anyway, is people want to use the Chaos Emeralds for their own use or whatever. And to be honest, the setting has really no effect on the whole plot. So basically we're going to segue into the writing style of Cityfounder. And the thing I liked about this book, that it was very direct with its writing style. Like, he would just tell you information. You wouldn't really beat around the bush. You wouldn't take 2,000 pages to describe how a tree felt this breeze and moved 2 inches to the left, 2 inches back to the right, 4 inches to the left, 4 inches to the right, and so on and so forth. It wasn't really beating around the bush. It was very direct in its descriptions, and I applaud him for that. The other thing, though, is that although it was very direct, it was very not varied. I don't know how to explain it. It was very simple. It was very simple writing style. It was kind of like a high schooler wrote it. like myself. And the problem with that is, me having taken AP Literature and having to do many exercises on this fucking topic, diction is basically how the sentence is structured. So you either have very long sentences, very short sentences. You have this thing where it kind of breaks off and they're really not sentences, but you get the point, how the sentences are structured and how they're carried on throughout the entire story and how it affects the fucking meaning of the story. So basically, the diction of this novel was pretty much non-existent. It was very average length every single sentence. And when you have average length sentences and you don't vary your sentence lengths, you have this pacing that literally it's literally the same pacing. Even in the more action-packed parts of the novel, you have this really dull, constant pacing throughout the entire novel that really gets boring. And although the vocabulary was also very simple, and some of the word choices were very simple as well. But what do you expect? He's not a fucking literature major writing books like J.K. Rowling. It's a very simple story and a very simple writing style. But since it's so simple and direct, it has this, doesn't really have a touch to it. You know, it doesn't really have that. So now we move on to the narration part of it. Basically how the story was told. Basically you have these, I think there's what, 21 chapters, 22 including the prologue. Basically it's told in this sort of third person point of view, and it kind of bounces back and forth between characters and, you know, sets of characters and things like that, which is fine. But the problem is that it kind of reads more of as a summary of events rather than a story. We don't really get too much input from how the characters are feeling, what they're thinking. It's just really just the summary of events that happen. And the drawback to that is you have, I'll get to this later, but the characters don't really develop that much, and you don't really have a connection between you and a character. You just can't relate with the characters. And I'm gonna get to the characters in a minute, but God, it's fine if you bounce back and forth between the characters and third person point of view. It could be done right, and I fucking hate saying this because I hated reading this book, but the Poisonwood Bible does it right. The events of the story are told through different points of view from each of the daughters, and you get their inputs on, like, on every single event, basically on certain events that happen in the plot, and you get their input, and you feel an actual connection. You can like or dislike a character. You can like or dislike their actions, and it really adds flavor. It really adds flavor to the entire novel and the plot and the characters. But the problem with the City the Wolf book is it doesn't do that. Like I said before, it just reads off as a summary of events and not really any sort of story being told. And I said I'd get to the characters, and oh my fucking God, the characters. Oh my God. They're really, the characters are probably my least favorite part of the book, to put it nicely. All the characters are very bland and robotic in personality. I can't tell you what's the difference between fucking Scatter and Speedy. I really can't, because they're just so fucking bland and robotic. They all kind of talk the same. They all kind of act the same. They're like the same fucking character, and it pisses me off. It really pisses me off. And the only descriptions of the characters are brief physical descriptions when they're first introduced, and then the characters do not get developed at all, which is also kind of a drawback of going back and forth between characters and then not really giving input on the certain characters. God, it seriously pisses me off that there's absolutely no connection between characters. There's really very bland character interactions. I would have loved to see a very deep connection and subplot between Cog and City, but no, it didn't happen. You are introduced in the beginning of the book. It's the first character that you're introduced is City, and then Cog, and City, the real person, City, the author of this book, decides, okay, they're introduced as best friends, and that's it. There's really no reason to why. And the relationship between these two characters are not really explored. I would have loved. Cog probably would have been my favorite character in the entire novel if his relationship with City was developed. And it wasn't. It really wasn't. It really fucking wasn't. And they all had the same interactions. They're like, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, robotic. I am a fucking robot. There's really no interesting qualities between the characters either. Oh my fucking god. The thing that I also hate the most about the characters is that 90% of them have the same backstories of that their parents are fucking dead. I swear to God, it's like reading Batman Sonic without the fucking character development of Batman. God, it pisses me off too. And one of my main gripes with the characters is that the main character himself, City, is hardly focused on throughout the book. There is really no internal conflict. We'll get to that in a second. But there's really no internal struggle that the main character has to face. City the Wolf. That's the whole title of the book. City the Wolf. This is not City and his friends and Sonic. The title is City the Wolf. And City the Wolf does not get developed. That's also a drawback of having the narration back and forth between characters. That, my God, the main character, the titular character of the book, hardly, I would argue, doesn't even at all get developed. There is really no internal struggle he has to face. There is some plot holes in a way, that his parents are dead, he's trying to find his parents, his brother, blah blah blah. Doesn't really get explored. No, it does not. And that's the problem with the characterization of this thing. I would have liked it. Here's how you would fix the characters. You literally scrap like half the fucking, here's how you fix the characters. You scrap half of them, focus on development, especially between City and Cog, and make interactions less robotic. I think the reason why Cog is probably my favorite character is that he actually has some sort of personality, just a little bit. He has some sort of personality, and that's probably why I like him. Also because he's kind of based on Jorson. But anyway, that's how the fucking characters are fucking abysmal. They're actually abysmal. You know, if the plot's good, if the plot is good, then all of this really doesn't really matter. But it sucks. It sucks dick. That's literally what it feels like. It's just, this is the plot right here. It basically ends on a cliffhanger. It literally ends on a cliffhanger that, oh my God, I don't want to ruin the story. I don't want to spoil the story for y'all, because I don't know if I want to. It's kind of confusing too. That's the thing about the plot. It's kind of confusing as well, because it kind of just bounces back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But basically, the main conflict of this whole novel is that Dr. Eggman is trying to take the Chaos Emeralds, and Sonic's trying to stop him from taking the Chaos Emeralds, and then City's like, oh, fuck it, let's help him. When there's no connection, no developed connection between City and Sonic. So it's just like this random fucking thing that happens that, like, City's like, okay, let's help Sonic. Like, what the fuck? I mean, there's really no connection between City and Sonic as characters. So why the fuck would City risk his life to go save the to go fucking save the Chaos Emeralds? It makes no sense. But then at the end of it, this third-party villain source just comes in and fucking death laser. Oh my God! And it's like, all right, let's invade, and then that's the end of the book. The problem is when you have, my problem with the plot is that it's structure. It feels like rising action, rising action, rising action, and when you finally get the climax, it says to be continued. You fucking killed it. You killed the whole momentum of the book by just rising when you get to the climax, and then it fucking dies. It's like eating a Twinkie without the cream. It makes no sense. Ah! Itch. Sorry, I had to take a break and actually calm down because I was just getting too wound up. So basically, in my opinion, the plot sucks because of the structure, and it doesn't really have a plot. It's just rising action, climax, and then the fucking book ends. The theme of the book is kind of hard to pick out. And in my opinion, there is no theme whatsoever. And I think this is because there is really no internal conflict between City and City himself. I really think this novel was written very poorly. And that's why there's no theme, because there's really no character development at all. There's no internal conflict. The external conflict doesn't really make any sense. And when you don't have any development of characters or some sort of conflicts, when your conflicts are basically non-existent, you don't really have a theme or a message. And it really drives the nail in the coffin in this book, because City said it had a lot of potential. In my opinion, Cityfounder is probably not the person to write this book. Hopefully, he said he's writing a second one, by the way. Hopefully, in the second one, he has some sort of character development. And I feel like if half the characters are gone and he actually focuses on developing characters and actually having a conflict between City and himself, and the plot actually develops in a nice and even way, it could be a decent book. The problem is, this isn't a decent book. In my opinion, this is probably one of the worst books I've ever read in my life. I'm sorry, City. I just have to be honest here. It's pretty bad. I read it twice, and I don't like reading. I would rather read a fucking dictionary than this book. At least I'm learning something in the dictionary. This book has no theme. The characters are shitty. The way you could have fixed this book is pretty simple. In my opinion, you scrap half the characters, like I said before. You focus on relationships between City. You focus more on City as a character, and how you could have had a fucking thing where this guy took he's trying to find his brother, and he comes back, and then there's this whole conflict that leads to an internal conflict with City. And then he has this relationship between him and Cog, and then other people. You just missed the mark in this book. And for that reason, I give this book a 0 out of 10. I would definitely not recommend it to people who, read books for a living. And I guess I have to end the video on that. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment, and let me know what you think. If you want to go read this book, I'll leave it in the description for you to read this poorly written book. And I'll see you guys whenever, I guess.